Hello, and welcome to another tutorial. And today we are in After Effects. This is not After Effects. I'm sorry. Let me start that again. Today we're in 3ds Max. Well, good start. And we are going to be having a look at multipass rendering. Ooh, now multipass rendering is basically rendering different passes of your scene and combining them so you've got more customization when you are compositing it. So here I have a scene. This is the building from the Video Copilot tutorial, The Ledge, or 3D Ledge. So I've just added the textures, placed them around, and then I've added some lights in the scene, quite a few of them. I've got a few Omni lights and some target lights, and one area spot, and also, well, I don't really need that light. That's more global illumination, but I didn't really need it for this bit. It's a skylight, by the way, in case you're interested. And we can't have shadows because this is not scanline. This is mental ray. Ooh. So here's something I've done. Oh dear. There we go. This is the passes we're rendering. So, So the diffuse layer. Or pass. This is in After Effects. This is darkening that layer. Oopsie. Then this is the ambient light from the streets below, and then we have highlights. Now they're not really highlights. They're just these lights, and they look like highlights, so I named them highlights. They have not got specular, just specular enabled. They look like highlights, so meh. So then we have moonlight. Oops, you can just see, especially here, just adds a bit more to the scene. And I've toned that down a bit. It was pretty bright in the render. And then ambient occlusion. This is very important. It makes it look amazing. Look at those corners. You can't really see the edges, especially here. Yes. It's basically ambient shadows you get when two corners connect. I don't have a clue what it is. It's just, it looks good. Just do it. And we also have window lights. These are quite awesome. As you can see, lights up the area, lights up. Very nice. And then some glow, because everyone likes glow, and it makes it look more realistic. And some color correction. Maybe a bit too much, but oh well. So this is on YouTube, by the way. I'll give you a link to that if you want to have a look in HD. So let's go through. So we need to, I'm just going to bring this up to help me. We need to render a diffuse pass. So basically set up your scene, all the lights, and this is what it looks like just normally lit. You can see the shadows are really harsh. Doesn't look very realistic. I haven't turned the windows on. That's the one. So we are going to render diffuse. So let's turn off all of the lights. No, we need shadows. Turn them all on. This is not a tutorial on how to set up or light a scene. This is how to use the elements that you have to create a, what's the word? Multipass render. So we need to turn off the moon. Turn off the moon. This is for, I would say this is for the diffuse pass. So I'm just going to make a small render just to make sure that looks okay. So I'm just going to do 300 render. No, that's way too dark because the multiplier is only at 0.1 and this is still rendering 1. So let's leave that at 1 and see how that looks. That's quite a bit of shadows down there. And we don't want that. So another way we can do this, if we yes, I forgot, I'm going to move that over. let's turn that off and add a Omni light. So standard Omni, place it anywhere, don't enable shadows. Intensity, put it onto 1. It won't really matter where you place it. There you go. Actually, I'm gonna move it down and see if that changes anything. Actually, we can close that window. Let's put it right down in the street. In the streets! In the hood. Shouldn't really be saying that, but I will. Let's render again. I'm gonna move this over here and this over here. There we go. Now, this is not looking like this, because I have forgotten how to do this. Don't worry, I've fixed it now. I've just turned back the skylight on and set the multiply to 2, and from what I did a little test render, it's a lot brighter. So you would save that, so you would just do a single frame, or depending on if you're doing a sequence, render the sequence, save it, whatever format you want, JPEG, sequence, PNG, MOV, whatever. So now we can turn that light off. So now I'm going to render the different lights. So let's render the ambient lights. So let's turn them on. We can see that there's some lights down there. Let me just disable render elements and render again. And you will see we have lights from below. So that would be one element, and once this renders, you save that. I like to name them, just name them like ambient lights, whatever you like, and then turn them off. Render these, the highlights, as I like to call them. You can have the same lights, you can have these lights just affecting specular, but you need to create a material with specular on it, like this one. You can see by the reflection and the light reflecting in it. But I didn't really need to do that on this because they're stone materials, and the glass, not too bothered. Well, there is some on the glass, but it's not too bad. So then you render the highlights, and as you can see, they're very highlighty. Don't think that's a word. I did see a comment on a video, I think it was the depth of field one, someone saying that blurage is a word, and I'm glad it is. Yeah. So you save that render, turn those lights off. Let's turn on the moon. Let's render that frame. That's a very subtle effect. You don't really want to have really bright lights shining down. Keep it subtle, people, keep it subtle. So then, once that's rendered, save it. And now, I forgot to mention this, but you can see here, I have, ooh, don't click on the building. Let's just go up. There they are. I have some window lights with this, which is basically a fall off. So you click use and show, and then it will show all of the lights fall off. That I don't really like that one, to keep it quick. So you click use to use a fall off, and then this value makes this circle bigger or smaller, and that's where the fall off starts. And then this value controls this circle, and that controls where the fall off ends. So that's the light at 1.4, and then it starts to fade off as it goes on. So these are window lights. Let me turn them on. You can see now what they are. Let's render them so I can show you lovely people what they are. There we go. So those are those window lights, and I placed the lights really close to the window. And I did not turn on the windows glow or colour for this. I just want to get the lights. So we would save this again, turn them off, and then I would go to my material. Right, it's a black material. I'm just trying to there it. That's my window. Yes. So I would drag my window onto that layer instant. Yep. Nope. Let me just undo that. It's the other layer. Excuse me. Instance. There we go. So let's add a bit of orange to that as well. So no, that's good. Let's render that. And since this is a the moon is still on. I forgot to turn it off for the last render. That doesn't matter because I wasn't saving it. Is the moon off? Yeah, moon's off. Now this is self-illumination, so on a standard material, it doesn't have to be mental ray. I just did it quickly. Now this is self-illumination, and since I'm using mental ray and have global illuminations on, you can just see it illuminating the area below it, such as here and opposite. And it's not too much of a big deal, but because it's already being lit by the lights we have from the windows. So that's all of the passes done, and now you would go into After Effects and combine them. So let us do that. But not yet. We have one more layer or pass to render, and that is the Ambient Occlusion. So we go to the render setup. Render. Right, it's in one of there we go. Material in processing, material override. Click enable. Now you go to your materials. We make a new mental ray material. So to do that, let's make a new one. If it decides to load, there we go. So new material slot. I have got quite a few materials. I was just experimenting. So let's find mental ray. Let's just. This doesn't want to scroll. Mental ray and surface. So then you go onto the surface, click none, and ambient reflective occlusion. And these are the settings I put it on. So 80. That's how high, what the quality is like for the shadow. So I put it on 80. This is 16. That's a low quality. The spread, it's how far. It's spread and max distance control how big the shadows are. So depending on your scene, you might want to change them. Cut. That's pretty simple. What color you have it at. I like to leave all of this alone because I don't know what it means. So then once you've enabled that, you go back to your mental ray material and drag it to there. So now we click render. Hello Ambient Occlusion. That's what it looks like. It's a white theme with the shadows. Even that looks amazing. But that is also how you do clay renders. When you want to get nice looking model show off things. Yeah, so you save that. And now we go to After Effects. Yeah, here we are in After Effects. So I have imported all my layers. This is the project file which I used to make this. So it's pre-made. I'm just speeding things up here. So I've put them all in. You can ignore these two layers to start with, and at the bottom we start with the diffuse layer. And because my scene is at night, I've decided to darken it quite a bit. So now we put the ambient layer on top of that and set the blending mode to add, because if it was on normal, you just see that. Please ignore these masks. And so we need to put it on to add. That basically overlays it on top of the diffuse. So now we have, I called them spotlights because they were, but they're highlights. There we go. And these I slightly tinted green, and these I kept slightly warmer. Again, set them to add, ignore the masks. I'm going to turn them off, don't need them. Now for the moonlight, I've tinted slightly blue and blurred it slightly, not too much. If you blur it too much, we can't see anything. So let's put it back to normal. Still can't see anything. Oh well. Basically, don't blur it too much, because, yeah, you just don't want to do that. So I blurred it slightly. I messed with the opacity on all of them as well, except for the diffuse. Ambient, I put to 60, because if it's yeah, you just want to keep things subtle, like the moon. If it was like that, that's just a little bit too much. I kept it like that. You can, if that's what you're going for, you can do that. Don't mind. You can do the highlights, but they're too much, so I took them all down. Now we have the most important of all, ambient occlusion. Watch what happens. Yeah. Look at these edges. Looks amazing, doesn't it? And this one I set to multiply, and I left the opacity as it is. Now I added the windows, and when I rendered that layer, I rendered the lights as well as the material applied, not just the material like that. That was a mistake, but oh well, it's like the two combined. So I tinted this yellow slightly and put it to add, left the opacity as it is, and then I added a glow to that. Very subtle as well. Kept the opacity as it is, and I just messed with the settings, put the intensity down, radius up. If we put a normal glow on it, it normally affects quite a lot of the area, and it looks, yeah, it just makes it look solid, and you can mess with the threshold as well. The higher it is, the more of the scene, no, the lower it is, the more of the scene gets affected. The higher it is, only more of the white stuff gets glowy. And finally some colour correction, basically darkening, curves, saturation, the usual. I did it in looks, so that was curves, a bit of saturation. Lovely jubbly. There you go. Passes. So you do the same thing with a moving scene. I accidentally rendered, let's just add one of these, the material scene, the material for the lights, as well as the ambient lights, because I didn't know what I was doing. But I masked it out so I had more control, and yeah. So for a moving scene, you do the same thing. Just, you might want to alter the colours as the scene moves on, change the opacity, colour, whatever. So yeah, that's how we go from a simple, boring, flat image to awesome, realistic, well, sort of realistic, cities. And this is what it looks like without the darkening. It looks a little bit too bright. If we took off the glow and the colour correction, get the windows, that's what I say, Looks a bit too bright, and I wouldn't have rendered the street ambient lights or the lights, just maybe a single target direct if I wanted it in the daytime. Also, you can render a Z-depth pass, but this started to get confusing and unrealistic, and basically what it does, it renders things closer to the camera in 3ds Max, a lighter shade of grey, almost white, and things further away darker. And then you can use that as a track matte. Let's go for Luma matte for an adjustment layer. So you can basically add. Let's just turn off the exposure just so we can see what we're doing. You can add a fast blur, well, lens blur, but fast blur is good, to add depth of field. But that clearly has not worked. Alpha inverted, Luma inverted, yeah, whoa, whoa. Yep, it's Luma matte. Luma inverted. It's one of them. It can get confusing, so that's why I left it out and didn't want to confuse you all. You can just render depth of field in the camera if you want. We do have a tutorial on that where someone commented saying blurrage is a word. You can just enable the depth of field, mental ray, and render elements, renderer, and then nope, we don't have to enable depth of field. That's for motion blur. Oh yeah, there you go. Multipass rendering in 3ds Max / After Effects. You need After Effects. You can do it in a compositing thing. You can, with 3ds Max 2011, you do get soft compositing software, which is slightly more confusing than 3ds Max, and I don't like to use it because it's nodes and lines and ugh. I like the good old timeline. So yeah, there you go. Multipass rendering. If you get confused, comment, post it on the moderator, send us a comment. I've just helped out one guy called Ben Suff, I think. I think it was Suff without a T. And he was having a bit of trouble rendering a teapot with a chrome material on a matte shadow floor. Just helping him out, managed to fix it. So if you've got any questions, ask and we shall reply. Because we're nice people and we're British. That's what we do. We reply and help you. So yeah. Subscribe for help. That's what you gotta do. We will reply if you haven't subscribed, but we would like you to subscribe. There you go. Multipass rendering. Bada boom. Done.